We're going to talk about action. And here I'd like to share with you my experience as Director General of Amazonas Sustainable Foundation. And the theme of today's chapter is how to move from strategic thinking into action. And our slogan is one very inspiring to me, which is to think big, start small, and move fast. This may sound very obvious, but oftentimes people get entangled in the complexity of problems and in difficulty of having practical solutions and don't move. So one strategy that we have developed is to see, well, okay, we have to have the global perspective. We have to look at the complexity of problems, but we have to make the exercise of narrowing down and identifying opportunities to start small action, learn by doing those actions, and move fast, because we have an urgency. The clock is ticking and we're running against time. Remember that we have a climate change process underway and we have a huge ecological crisis underway in relation not only to terrestrial ecosystems but also to marine ecosystems where coral reefs are under extreme threats. So we have an agenda that requires urgent action. So today I'm going to give you our experience on how to make that translation, how to design a prototype, how to have adaptive management. And one strategy that we have borrowed from a traditional ecological thinking is think global, act local. This is a message that is owed for those who are in the Sustainable Development Agenda. This dates back to the Rio Conference in 1992, when the idea of having concrete action that makes sense for the global agenda was highlighted. And in order to do that move, we have to see which are the strategies to identify those opportunities that make sense for small and pilot activities, but also that can catalyze further initiatives. I'd like to share you an interesting story. We at FAS have a holistic approach to sustainable development. And that means that we deal with all kinds of issues. And then we were eventually approached by an organization which offered us support to do early childhood development, which deals with breastfeeding and early childhood care so that kids develop the brain capacity, the cognitive skills that are essential for them as human beings to make sustainable development in practice. But we had no medical doctor. We didn't have any specialists on this. But then we said, well, this is very significant agenda, very relevant for social reasons. And let's start small with a pilot project. And this pilot project ended up becoming a program because it yielded so many results. It also generated interest from other partners who provided us additional funding. It educated ourselves, including myself, and that opened up a whole agenda that also resulted in a great engagement of women in the work that we do, because they felt that possibly the most important component of their lives, which is their children, was taken care of. So this is an example of how we can take a small slice of this big cake which is holistic sustainable development. Identify a theme in which you can have practical action. Identify opportunities because of partnerships. In this particular case, was a partner that not only could provide funding, but also could provide technical support for us, and do a pilot and learn from that pilot, and then scale up. Because it's important also not to be trapped in pilots, because this is a problem of many activities, many initiatives related to sustainable development. Oftentimes end up in the pilot, and the pilot doesn't become scalable. So whenever we do something small, which is good because we can do it quickly, we don't need to wait to have $1 billion of funding. We can move with relatively small amounts of funding, small amounts of human resources and so on. But it's essential to keep in mind that this is not the end. This is a step to scale it up. Because in this particular example of early childhood development for indigenous communities in forest landscapes, we wanted to have all of the communities with that program. So what we did was to engage governmental agencies at the state level and at the municipal level on this agenda. And they eventually saw the results, the political return of these activities to them, because they're interested in that kind of payback, and this grew to become a very important initiative. And this is, of course, a concept which is of general nature. It doesn't apply only to forests, it applies to all types of terrestrial ecosystems. Because in most parts of the world, the challenge of managing terrestrial ecosystems is not only a biological challenge, it's also a social challenge. It's how to empower people, how to engage people. And for that to happen, you have to have healthy people. And oftentimes, when we talk about forests, we think that this is an issue of natural scientists, of ecologists, of foresters, and so on. But it's not. It's an agenda that also includes education and health and energy and communication, transportation, all these components of human life. But for an organization such as ours, you cannot tackle everything all at once at the big scale. But if we slice the pie, we can start on several fronts as we have potential funding, and we can move, learn by doing, and increase the partnerships. I think this lesson is essential for those of you who want to be doers. We have, I think, a big challenge, which is to change the mindset of practitioners. There is too much emphasis on meetings, coffee breaks, workshops, discussions, and relatively very little action. So I'd like to end this chapter with a call for action. Let's get it started. We can do it. It's possible to do it. Keep a global perspective, identify a local priority, and move fast. And as you move fast, two things. Engage others, build partnerships, and think of ways of scaling up what you started small. And all of a sudden you realize that you have more partners and you have people interested, and this creates an energy that is essential to change business as usual.